everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to So What, the Marketing Analytics and Insights live show. I'm Katie, joined as always by Chris and John. I'm struggling to speak today, so it should be interesting. On today's episode, we are covering search quality ratings guidelines, which does not roll right off the tongue. We'll be talking about what Google considers to be quality content, how to compare the Google search quality ratings guidelines to your own SEO strategy, and what you should avoid doing in your content marketing. So now that I've gotten through all the tongue twisters, where should we start? John, do you pay attention to things like search quality ratings guidelines when you're putting together content for Marketing Over Coffee, or do you just kind of wing it?
Well, it's kind of like religious instructions, like you're supposed to interpret them and follow them, so you kind of keep them in mind as you do it. But it's always fascinating to me because it's really kind of like, people always talk about Google as this black box, and it is, but the box is actually cut in half, and there's the upstream box that nobody ever sees, and then there's the second box, which is these quality ratings guidelines, and they do actually show you kind of what goes on in there. And it's amazing to me that there's over 10,000 people that review these results, like humans that actually review and rate stuff and, make things happen. And so there's some stuff we can learn out of that. But yeah, I wish I could say that like I have a checklist that I follow, but no, that's definitely
not. So Chris, I know you've read the entirety of the search quality ratings guidelines. Where should we start?
Let's talk about how they're used. I think that's the best place to start because they are not ranking factors in and of themselves. One of the things that we were talking about this week in the Analytics for Marketers Slack group is what things constitute actual Google ranking factors and what things do not. The search quality rating guidelines themselves are not ranking factors. They are a way for Google to build data, but they do not play a final role in how Google decides how your site rates. If you are not a member of Analytics for Marketers, I recommend you pop on over, because what we did this week was we actually put together, based on Search Engine Journal's excellent 550-page book on ranking factors, a cheat sheet of the things that do and don't matter. And the search quality rating guidelines, the evaluated guidelines, do not, they are not ranking factors in and of themselves. So what are these? These are essentially QA tests. Right? So what raters do, like John said, 16,000 people around the world load up web pages, and then based on Google's guidebook, which is this is essentially the training manual for these 16,000 people, they go through and they rate different websites. They rate them on two dimensions: page quality and needs met. So is the page a high quality page, and does it meet the needs of the searcher? And what these folks are asked to do is first do a quick assessment of page quality, and then they're given a task, like, for example, find the contact information on the Trust Insights website. That'd be a task they'd be given, and then they have to rate that site based on the ease of which they can accomplish that task. So, go ahead, Katie.
Let me see if you answer my question before I ask it.
What Google does with this data is it takes these ratings things, and it is part of the training data that retrains the Google algorithm. So the Google algorithm is an unknown entity, a giant black box with several hundred inputs, of which some of these are these training scores. And then the output is, of course, search rankings. Other inputs include things like header tags on pages, alt text, page speed, core web vitals, number of inbound links. All these things are data that goes into Google's massive model, and what comes out is hopefully useful content. And so, following the search quality rating guidelines, in and of themselves would not necessarily change your rankings, but because they contain the best practices that Google is looking for and teaching their AI models to learn from, there is a high likelihood that adhering to the guidelines will result in pleasing experiences that will mirror the data that Google uses in its algorithms, and therefore help your site rank better.
So And I'm guessing that within this 500 plus page document, they go into detail, but do they can we summarize like what defines quality? Like what is a good quality page versus a not good quality page? Because without that definition, I feel like it's very open to interpretation of what I consider good quality versus what, John might consider good quality.
And indeed, section 3 is all about page quality. What constitutes quality? There's a sliding scale, and you can see this on the screen here. For those who are listening, if you're just listening to the audio, there's this nice little sliding scale, and this is actually part of the interface that Google uses for page ratings. And you would select through pages that based on these things: the purpose of the page, what is its intent, the potential for the page to cause harm, the topic of the page, and to it. The topic is in the special category called Your Money or Your Life, which are high risk pages. So, for example, medical information is a Your Money or Your Life page, and the bar for quality is higher on those pages. Does the page convey accurate information? So, for example, a page could look very authoritative about the supposed inherent harms of a COVID vaccine, but we know through literally billions of tests now that COVID vaccines are safe and effective, and therefore Google would say, okay, because the intent of the page, if it was say a page opposing vaccines, the intent of the page is to cause harm by convincing people not to take vaccines, this page will be rated the lowest level of quality. And those decisions are made by the raters, which is why there's so many of them, because you need to have many different people evaluating these pages based on Google's somewhat subjective guidelines. The 4 categories that they look at are effort, which is how much effort did it take to create this content, how original is it, how much skill does it take to create the content, and how accurate is the content. So when Google talks about quality of content, those are the 4 major buckets.
So let's say I'm a rater. How do I know what the level of effort is that someone took? Like, so this is saying consider the extent to which a human being actively worked to create satisfying content. The speed in which, someone like me creates content versus someone like you, Chris, is very different, but the outcome could be the same thing, and so how do they determine, and I guess that's what you're saying is like, it's subjective, the level of effort for creating content. Like I know John puts a lot of work into each Marketing Over Coffee episode, but someone else who, just as an example, could have a similar type podcast and really not put that much effort into it at all. How does a rater know that they spent a lot of time creating satisfying content, which that in and of itself seems subjective?
Part of it is Google has dozens and dozens and dozens of examples for every single one of these ratings. So, for example, this page here, and we'll show this, pull this up here. This one was rated as low quality content, and the reason Google says this was rated low quality content. It does not achieve the main purpose well. It lacks accuracy and does not demonstrate expertise, experience, authority, or trustworthiness. Information about energy sources and nuclear power could significantly impact global industries and society. This is a Your Money or Your Life topic. The writing of this article is unprofessional, including many grammar and punctuation errors. The main content also appears to be paraphrased from a science article found on a different source, but with factual inaccuracies introduced throughout. The combination of low quality main content and the lack of EAT justify the lowest plus to low rating. So that's essentially that, an explanation. And part of your job as a quality rater is to go through this exhaustive training to decide to learn what is and is not quality content.
Well, and it sounds like they also have to be capable of doing research. You can't just look at it and go, oh, yeah, that sounds like what I understand it to be, so it's good quality. Like you actually have to demonstrate the correctness of the content.
Exactly. Well, not just the correctness of the content, but also even things like layout. So this was rated low quality content. 40th birthday party food ideas. The design itself is pretty horrendous. But this one is dinged because of the sheer number of ads going through it. So you can see here, this page has and website have many characteristics of low quality. Close observation shows main content that contains mostly common information and poor writing quality writing, demonstrating a lack of effort. The content is broken up by large ads, significantly disrupt the user experience. So part of learning how to use the guidelines is in fact going through the examples and going, okay, well, why did this, why was this rated? This is another one that was rated low quality. At first glance, like, the design's a little on the old side, but it looks okay-ish. But then when we go to the rating, we see there's a large amount of filler or meaningless content and complete lack of effort in editing. In addition, the main content contains only commonly known information, no expertise or first-hand experience created by the content author. So that's how Google helps people decide what constitutes quality. And you've seen mentioned in here a few things. One thing that has comes up over and over again is this thing called expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And these categories are the distinguishing factors. You've heard people refer to them as EAT in the past, EAT. In this most recent version, Google has kind of rearranged things. So they say experiences, considering how much the content creator's personal experience or first-hand experience informs the content, how much credentialed experience do they bring to the topic, and how authoritative is it in terms of, is it a reliable source for the information? For example, if you were you're writing a page on COVID vaccines, if you worked for the National Institute of Health, that would be an authoritative source. If you worked for Chris's blog that he runs out of his basement, not as authoritative.
What do you think,
am I
John?
right in the understanding of, so the idea with this then is it is still all subjective, but they put together a ton of examples, and the hope is that after somebody has scored 500 or 600 pages, they're kind of going to be in line with the rest of the group of reviewers, and people will be scoring stuff within a couple points because they all have done enough work and have this picture in their mind of what the stuff should be.
There's that, and then there's also, remember, this is only a portion of the training data. The other portion of the training data comes from the users themselves. When you and I are on a search engine, we click on a result, we go to that page, and we just come back 2 seconds later, like, nope, that wasn't it. That behavioral data tells Google, okay, this was not a good mismatch. If there are, one of the things that Google has as a substantial advantage over many other search engines is they have millions and millions of websites that voluntarily put Google Analytics on their sites. And so once that user arrives on that site, Google can watch that user and say, okay, are they clicking? Are they scrolling? Are they going, how far into the site do they go? We all love that scroll depth measure in Google Analytics. It tells us how much of their content got read. Well, we're not the only ones who use that information. Google uses that as well to determine, like, when you click to a search result and you read that first paragraph and you're like, I'm out, right? Your scroll depth is 10 or 20%, and Google understands the content did not fulfill your needs.
Interesting. Does it say in here, for those who are interested, how to become a rater?
No, but it's an open position. I believe you can find it on Google's employment site.
Okay. I wanted to throw that out there for anyone who, maybe they're in between things or looking to pick up, a second job or something. It sounds like it's time intensive, but there are people who enjoy this kind of work. Like, I would enjoy this kind of work if I was looking. And so I just want to make sure that people also know how to get involved if they're interested.
I will put a big asterisk on that. All of these types of positions inherently expose you to extremely harmful content. So if you are someone who has certain past experiences or things, you may find that these jobs are extremely taxing.
Totally understood. And obviously, like, you have to use your own judgment before you sign up for anything. But, there are people who would be interested in making sure that websites are following these guidelines, for example, so you can sort of see where it's a greater good kind of a thing.
Exactly. So one of the things that is, like I said, is very useful in here is understanding how Google makes a lot of these differentiations. So, for example, in these your money or your life topics, there's a difference between experience and expertise, right? Someone who is sharing their firsthand experience of something, that's valuable. But if the information in Google's judgment requires more expertise than experience, a page that is high in experience but low in expertise will get rated lower than a page that has the expertise and not necessarily experience. So the example they cite here, which is a really good one, filling out tax forms. A humorous video from a non-expert content creator about the frustration of doing taxes would be valuable sharing of life experience, right? As opposed to something information best left to experts, instructions on how to fill out the tax forms, because as many of us know, filling out tax forms does require all sorts of arcane knowledge about the tax code to do it an optimal outcome.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that stands out, and this is part of the guidelines, is understanding the website. Google is very particular about making sure that there is adequate contact information available on a website. And again, the bar is higher. If your site is classified as a your money or your life site, you have to have more contact information than, say, my personal blog.
So, and I'm guessing that in here, let's see, they define the your money or your life. So, for example, Trust Insights, probably not your money or your life kind of website.
Right. So your money or your life topics. The topic itself is harmful or dangerous, or the topic could cause harm if the content is not accurate or trustworthy. So health or safety, financial security, society, and other. Now, here's the thing. Google doesn't present a clear list, right? They do say here are the various different examples, but there isn't a clear list, and it is not site-wide. It is topic related. So if on the Trust Insights website we put up a topic about, which we have actually, we have a whole page that we put up annually about hate crimes against LGBTQ folks that we put up before Pride Month every year. That topic is a your money or your life topic. It is held to a higher standard. And so we would rate lower than, say, Human Rights Campaign or the Trevor Project, appropriately so, because it's not our specialty. We don't necessarily have all the expert credibility that an organization like the Trevor Project would have, and someone reading it. Now, we're both ethical and moral, and we don't put up information that's going to actively cause harm, but it is a sensitive topic, and therefore it is held to a higher standard.
That's always, I always wonder with this, is it because they, like, if you're just talking about restaurant reviews, then you can have diversity of opinion and that's okay. But these are topics where variation in the opinion is not allowed because, again, it can be loss of money or life. Is that the idea?
Essentially, I mean, think about it from a business perspective. What Google wants to avoid is lawsuits, right? Saying, hey, you directed me to this website, and this website told me that drinking bleach is okay, and I drank bleach, and now I can no longer eat any food. That in that example, there is a pretty clear indication that Google sent you somewhere that should not have been listed, right? That would be the lowest quality content that is actively harmful. Where things get questionable and where we don't have any guidance from these search quality rating guidelines are about things for which there are highly polarized opinions that do not necessarily have a scientific or factual judgment one way or the other. Simple example, tax code. Should tax code be regressive or progressive? Should tax code be a flat tax, or should it be a progressive tax where income tax increases with your income? There isn't a right answer to that question, but they are highly polarized opinions. And someone who is rating a page, depending on your political inclination, you would choose a page that was advocating for a progressive tax, and you were a conservative person, you would rate that page low quality because you would consider that misinformation. Someone who is liberal, who looks at a flat tax, would say do the same thing. And so again, you need that large group of people to achieve the the diversity of opinions, you need the behavior of the users themselves that would signal, yeah, there's debate about this topic, but it's it isn't necessarily harmful one way or the other, even though it is about a your money or your life topic. And Google has been very closed-mouthed about how it handles things where there are political overtones, like LGBTQ rights, and depending on your point of view, the other point of view you may view as factually incorrect.
If this question likely will send us down a rabbit hole, we can park it for now. But who's making this set of guidelines? Like, I understand like the raters have to follow these guidelines, but who's making this determination to say that this is what's considered low quality, this is what's considered high quality, this is what's considered harmful? So who's building that? Obviously, I know the answer is Google, but like, is it a large committee? Is it one person? Like, how does that work?
As far as we know, it's Google's web quality team. I don't know how large that team is, but it is a team of folks. I know in the past, folks like Danny Sullivan have said that there is a team behind the creation of this. And I believe, and we're gonna have to Google this. There is also a third-party trust and oversight committee that is not Google employees that looks over it. Most of the big tech companies have some sort of third-party body that will frequently audit what these things are doing. It's kind of funny. Twitter is notable for when their management changed, they dissolved their trust and safety council immediately. They just got rid of it, the whole thing. But as far as I know, Google has a similar committee of folks who agree on a lot of these guidelines.
Gotcha. So all of this being said, all of these search quality ratings guidelines, what do we marketers need to do with this information? How does it impact us? Obviously, we're talking about organic search, and so naturally SEO. Like, what do we do with this information? This is a lot of information.
It is a lot of information. And remember, it boils down to two dimensions: page quality and needs met. So the first thing you have to do is go through and read about what essentially Google considers low or high quality. So for example, this is high quality main content. What is the difference between high quality and low quality? High quality is a news article with accuracy, depth, and clarity, a Q&A page or forum post with meaningful discussions, a well-organized crafting tutorial page, high originality, unique or original photos, and things like that. Low quality would be photos from other sources. Low quality would be lack of curation, poor editing. So immediately there's some things jump out, like, okay, spell check your stuff. Make sure that it is obviously not garbage. When you're going through looking at the various authority examples, you can, again, read through this page is clearly labeled as an opinion piece, right? So if you have content that could be misconstrued, being clear about its intent is super helpful. When you look at things like the news and updates page, main quality is high content, effort, original content unique to the site. As a marketer, if you are just copy pasting from somebody else's website, that's low quality. One of the most damning statements that is you'll find in here is on the medium quality content, and Google says medium quality content falls into the category of nothing wrong, but nothing special, right? And that is most marketing content. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing special. There's nothing that would, when you go there, like, okay, this was valuable, this was useful, this was original, this was unique, this was provided good information.
Interesting. So basically what you're saying is that we're all just mediocre.
I mean, yes, most marketing content really is just mediocre. So that's the first part. The second part is the needs met guidelines. So the needs met guidelines is talking about, does a search, does a page meet the needs of the user? And so users are given tasks and ask, does the page or the search result meet the needs of that task? So let's go through a few examples here. You'll note, by the way, a lot of these things are Google's own content blocks, which is somewhat alarming. But they'll say things like shop Nordstrom online is the query. User intent, go to the Nordstrom website for online shopping. This search result fully meets that need, right? The query has a clear intent to go to the Nordstrom website. Google showed the Nordstrom website. The need has been met. If we scroll down, let's go into what country is Mount Fuji in? User intent, find the country. Mount Fuji from Wikipedia. This is a specific no simple query. The landing page for this result provides the answer to the query with a lot of information about the mountain. While the answer can be found in the description of the website, is not displayed prominently. So in this case, the need was highly met, but not fully met, because the answer did not leap out immediately and obviously. Oh, that's clearly what it is. The Broadway tickets. The intent here is to research prices and go find tickets on Broadway. And there's Ticketmaster is the example, and it says this site is helpful, but you have to do a lot of navigating to get to where you want to go. So as a result, it highly meets the needs, but not fully. If we go down a bit further into the slightly meets the needs, Britney Spears, and you have this TMZ article. It says the landing page has a 2006 article about Britney Spears filing for divorce. This is very old, stale news, making the result helpful for few users. And so, as Google's ratings, basically, in the medium needs, is how many users does this help? Does it help everybody? It's high, fully meets the needs. Does it help only a couple of people? Slightly meets or does not meet the needs of most users.
What's interesting, and I'm looking at the example right below that, the Honda Odyssey. I was going to ask about how do we know user intent, but this is saying we will assume that users are interested in the current Honda Odyssey model unless otherwise specified. And I think that I can see where, these guidelines can be very vague and murky because it's making a lot of assumptions. The way in which we as, humans search for information is so different. The way that the three of us would look for information, is going to be very different. We could all be given the same task, but our approach is going to be different. The way in which we think about it is going to be different. And so it is fascinating to me that they are, drawing that line in the sand and saying, like, we know that humans can be unpredictable, but this is how we're going to predict them.
Exactly. And so one of the things that's different about the needs met scale is that it is context dependent, right? So if we pull up this blog post from last week's show, this page would meet the needs of somebody who wanted information about understanding shadow bands. It would not meet the needs of somebody looking for eyeshadow, right? So there's no one score for a needs met thing. It is all query dependent. And so you have query independent stuff like page quality. Is this a high quality page? Does it clear? Do we know who made it? Is it cluttered with ads, etc., or is the quality high? That's one dimension. The second dimension is, does it answer the question that the user has? Does it fulfill the user's intent? So if someone was coming to this page looking for information about shadow bands, this page hopefully would fulfill that need. One of the things that SEO folks in recent years have done a good job of understanding and communicating is that a page, particularly like a landing page, should meet a very specific need. So this is where having a user story would be really handy, so that you can say, yes, this meets the need of this page.
And as a quick refresher, a user story is a simple statement with three parts. As a persona, I want to, so that the persona being, who the individual is, the want to is the intent, and the so that is the outcome.
Yep. As a person recently laid off at Microsoft, I want to improve my LinkedIn profile so that I stand a better chance of getting a job faster, right? That would be an intent, a user story for this page. And therefore, if somebody found this page by a search query for how do I improve my LinkedIn profile, this page would meet those needs, right? There's a course that you can take that would help. Actually, this page probably mostly meet needs because the page doesn't have the information itself on it. It has a sign-up form for a course. But in terms of fulfilling user intent, that's what this page does. This page would poorly meet the needs of somebody asking, how do I improve my LinkedIn marketing to market to more people on LinkedIn? Because that's not what this course is about.
And so that makes me wonder, there's the intent of the user and the question they're asking, but there's also our intent. Our intent is not to help people understand LinkedIn marketing. But if somebody's intent was to understand LinkedIn marketing, we are then penalized or scored lower because we didn't meet that need.
For this page, so remember, a page's needs met is query dependent. So if that was the task, and so one of the things that we would want to do is have those user stories written out, and then say to each critical page on your website, what is the user story for that page, right? For the important ones, obviously, just some random blog post like 4 years ago, you don't need a user story for that. But if there are pages that are highly converting, perhaps, what is the user story of that page? And if you don't have that clearly written down, then that page may not be as focused as you want, which means it may not meet the intent of the user, the many users who find their ways through that page. When you have a campaign landing page that you're putting up for, say, pay-per-click ads, again, have that user story written out, because if you don't, there's a good chance stuff's going to find its way onto that page, especially when you're designing by committee, that is not going to help. People are not going to find it as useful.
Right. No, and I understand that, but that wasn't my question. My question is, the purpose of this page from our perspective is to help people who are looking for their LinkedIn, profiles.
Yes.
If the task by the rater is LinkedIn marketing, then they're going to rate our page low. And so we're penalized for not answering the question that we didn't know was being asked.
That's correct. For that query, this page would be rated as, slightly meets the needs.
Seems pretty rude.
And that's why stuff like keyword research still matters, so that you can see what people are searching for and try to determine what is the intent of it. It's also why, from a content creation perspective, having a longer tail keywords. So instead of having LinkedIn be the keyword for a page where you're not sure what the intent is, having how to fix my LinkedIn profile as your target focus for that page makes it much more clear that that's it has lower search volume, but the intent is super clear. And so when you look at your keyword lists or your topic lists, you have to look at them and say, okay, are these topics that we are targeting clear enough that when somebody finds their way to the landing page for it, we fulfill the intent?
So it sounds like, I wouldn't say regardless, but despite all of the hoops that you feel like Google is making you jump through in order to have your page ranked higher, the basics of SEO still matter. Making sure you're doing your keyword research, making sure you are writing thoughtful, helpful content, making sure that you know who your audience is and what questions they're going to be asking that you can answer. So all of that, like if you focus on those things, then I feel like you don't have to worry as much about this massive document, because you're still doing the thing you set out to do with your SEO and your content marketing.
And one of the things that I think is useful as an exercise is doing this in reverse. So you look at pages on your website, they're like, this page should be doing better. Why isn't it? So the first thing you do is say, let's do the user story for the page. And then you look at, in Google Search Console, the search terms that are driving traffic to that page, and say, does the user story that we came up with match the Search Console data for that page that would indicate, oh, this is why people are on this page? And if the answer is no, then the remediation is pretty clear. If you want to fix that up, you can say, oh, well, I clearly need to improve this page so that I'm doing a better job of fulfilling those needs. And the challenge that you're going to run into is that Google's Search Console interface does not actually help with that all that much. It's actually kind of a pain in the butt. So you have to, if you want to do that well, you have to extract it out from the API itself in order to do that assessment. So here, let's look at the Trust Insights website. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Ooh, that was much larger than I wanted it to be. So here's an example. AMP app review is the query. And this page is so what platform review Amazon AMP. Does that page meet that need, right? Does it satisfy the intent of the user? Someone looking for a review of that app. Yeah, I think you and John did that episode. Would you say that you did a fairly good review of that?
I think it was pretty thorough. What do you say, John?
Best AMP review ever.
But that was the exact question that we were answering was, what is the AMP app? What does it do? And should you bother to spend your time with it?
Mm-hmm. Here's one that's further down. A podcast manager's salary. Does this episode, which is in your podcast, which is just about what my salary be, does that answer the intent of that page? No, because the intent of that query is someone who's a podcast manager trying to figure out what their pay is, and that page does not meet those needs.
No, it was a more general, here's how you as an individual should start to go ahead and do the research to find out. So, and it's interesting because it's not an immediate answer, but it gives you how to answer that question. And so this is where I can see it being problematic for the human raters is, so it didn't tell you exactly the podcast manager's salary, but it does tell you how to get to that answer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Scroll down a bit further here, you can see things like STEM marketing. I don't even know what the heck that is. AI generated content copyright. Does this post answer that? Yes, that post answers that very clearly. So part of the things that any content marketing manager should be doing is looking in their data. And again, unfortunately, to get this lined up by query and page, you have to extract it from the API. But to do this, you can then say, okay, are the pages that are getting traffic or the pages that were showing up in the search result, do they match the intent of the searcher? And if they don't, your choices are either you fix that page or you spin up a separate page that answers that query. If there's a lot of search volume on a given term, let's pretend that podcast manager was a hot thing. If we saw in the SEO tool of our choice that was a 2,000 searches a month, yeah, that'd be worth putting up a dedicated page just to answer that question.
So what's interesting, so that very bottom line that you said, you don't know what that is. So to us, STEM is a framework in terms of strategy, tactics, execution, measurement, but we don't know if that's what the intent was or if they meant science, technology, engineering, math. And so we don't know if it answers the question. So we would have to dig deeper into the actual analytics on that page to see how long people were staying. Does it fit into, does it contribute to people converting? Like there's a deeper analysis that has to be done, because just looking at this on a spreadsheet, I could say, yeah, it answers the question because they were looking for STEM marketing. We gave them STEM marketing, but we don't know what STEM stands for. Or do they mean like stem cell research or the stem of a tree or a plant? Like we don't know.
Exactly. And that's where, again, using multiple tools in your search marketing can be helpful to parse that apart, because you are ultimately trying to get to those needs met ratings and things. Mm-hmm. The other thing I'd say is, for marketers in particular, go through the examples of the highest quality pages and read the justifications and the explanations that Google specifically says, here's why this page is rated highest quality. So, and they're not necessarily great pages, right? So this is a highest quality page. Is this, this is not exactly award-winning artwork here, but the reason Google says this is the highest quality page is that it says, we learned that kernel.org is the main repository of source code for the Linux kernel, makes all the versions of source code available to all users. This website is the most authoritative source for information about Linux and has a very positive reputation in the topic of the page. So this page, the reputation of the website around the topic makes it highest quality. Even if it's not a particularly attractive page, it fully meets all the needs that that Google's looking for. So people should be looking through these, all these different examples and seeing like, well, does my page meet those needs? So here's one. This is, secret fears of the super rich, as a magazine article. The article is on a magazine website that has won multiple national magazine awards. A very positive reputation for this type of article. The article has in-depth main content that's unique and original. It shows effort, skill, and original content. That's the reputation goes beyond just, is this a well-known entity or not? They actually are citing, there are awards that have been won. If you're a content marketer and you're working on the reputation of your website and stuff, all those awards ceremonies and things and stuff may actually be heuristics that help a human rater go, yeah, this is an award-winning website. Like, yeah, the award was given out by my dog, but
Well, but in all seriousness, this is why when we talk about the things that matter most in SEO, inbound links from good quality, reputable websites. And so, if Trust Insights is getting a lot of, links from The Atlantic, which was that last website, those are good quality. And Google's going to go, okay, The Atlantic is linking to Trust Insights. So Trust Insights must also, by association, have something important to offer versus us just getting, links from, my personal website, which has like 5 pages on it and not a whole lot of content. Yeah, I'm part of Trust Insights, but my personal website does not hold authority at all. And so I can see where that is still an important distinction.
Exactly. Here's a chocolate chip cookie recipe. The author of this blog has documented her extensive experimentation with the chocolate chip cookie recipe, and her expertise is demonstrated in the large quantity of original, high or highest quality main content. The author of this blog has documented her extensive experimentation, shows experience, and her expertise and skills demonstrated in the large quality. So let's take a look at this chocolate chip cookie recipe, because now I'm curious. Oh, it's one of these that has 500,000 things, and this is your grandma's recipe, that was handed down through the ages, all that stuff. But it's less surprising now when you look at the things that show up in search results, why those things show up, because the part of the training data is those human beings making these subjective calls that, hearing about someone's grandma's cookies recipe from the 1800s that, was carried on a wagon across the country. And the rest of us like, just show the freaking recipe already. But from a search quality rating perspective of, can I convince a human rater to rate this as authoritative, that ridiculous story actually matters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and everybody loves here's the cookies, the butter was frozen. Here's the cookies, the butter was room temp. It was melted. I sprayed the butter from a compressor 20 feet away into the batter, and you get all your different cookies. People love that stuff.
Yep. And the other part that's interesting in the intent is that Google breaks out intents in a series of different categories. There's knowledge queries, like I just want to know something. How do I do something? I'm looking something, a branded search intent or a visit intent, right? Those are sort of the big categories. So as you're creating content for your website, you have to figure out, what kind of intent am I serving? And does this really, our content fulfill one or more of these intents? And if so, which one does it fulfill the best?
Interesting.
Yep. So that is the quality rating guidelines. The key takeaways: you have 2 dimensions. You have the page quality, which is query independent, and and following the guidelines for what constitutes high quality content. And then there's the needs met dimension, which is query dependent on whether your site meets the needs of what the person is searching for. As a marketer, you've got to nail page quality out of the gate, right? Regardless of anything else, your site's got to be high quality, and then you've got to have a good content plan to meet the needs of people based on the topics that you're choosing to create content about.
So none of this replaces actually talking to your audience to ask them what they need from you, instead of you saying, here's what I think you need.
In fact, clearly, just on the fact that the search quality rating guidelines exist and that they're humans rating things should be a telling sign that Google, one of the largest AI companies on the planet, still requires humans as a key part of its training data. So if Google requires it, you probably do too.
Makes sense. John, final thoughts? You gonna leave us to go be a rater?
Dude, definitely steal this stuff for your own UX. It's like, here's a plan for you. It's like, find a prospect, say, hey, can you find this on my page, and run them through the same thing. You can easily use this approach for your own stuff.
Exactly. All right, folks, that's it for this week. We will see you all next time. Thanks for watching today. Be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you're watching it. For more resources and to learn more, check out the Trust Insights podcast at trustinsights.ai/TI podcast and a weekly email newsletter at trustinsights.ai/newsletter. Got questions about what you saw in today's episode? Join our free Analytics for Marketers Slack group at trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. See you next time.